Alright, we're on. Alright guys, how you going? Let's see if you can see me a bit better. Should be able to hear me. I'm Benjamin Kallenberg from www.consciousazine.com. I was just having some thoughts before, so I thought I'd put it on tape. Might even help someone, you never know. And finally, for one time, I don't think I'm in a rush because I'm using just the camera off my computer. So for once I'm not in a rush because I'm not racing screencast or something and the 15-minute time limit, or I have some sort of terrible ability to upload to YouTube. It just doesn't work past a few minutes properly. I don't know, bugs in my system or something. Anyway, so I was just walking around before, pondering, as I do, because I'm a philosopher, a modern day philosopher, and I guess you might call me as one title or moniker. So I was just walking around and I was thinking about, the universe. Why? Everyone's there asking, where's Wally? Well, I can see him, he's over there, but I'm asking, why is Wally? So yeah, I was just thinking to myself, why is Wally? Why am I? I'll put up the picture as the custom thumbnail on this YouTube video of why is Wally laying there on the field. So, I was thinking, why is Wally? And then I thought, the next question for me at that moment that came to me into my head via, I don't know, I guess the stars or time would have it that way. So the next question was, after why is Wally and why am I was thinking, why is anything? What I was reading the other day some science article about apparently the universe shouldn't exist due to fluctuations at the Big Bang. And I thought, oh my god, this is nonsense. I don't know about this Higgs particle either, and its size being, what was it, larger than the proton, which makes up an atom. I'm pretty sure that's what this article said. So if that's true, I don't know, it was funny to me that a particle that's meant to give other particles its powers, or well, its weight and stuff, its mass, for a particle that's meant to do that, and it was weighing more than a proton or something. I don't know. Anyway, we'll talk about that another day, I think, when there's more stuff being done on the Higgs, and when I relate it to something, when I fit it into how I see reality and correlate it to something, then we'll talk about that more. Anyway, so I was thinking about, why is it all? Why is anything? And I thought about how Terence McKenna said, the Big Bang is the limit case for credulity. Credulity, gullibility, the propensity to just, believe it, sort of thing. And I thought, yeah, I agree with him, he's right, essentially. It's the limit case of credulity. If you can believe that, the universe came out of nowhere for no reason, which is the view from the past, when you don't think that we've been pulled from the future, which I suspect is how it actually happens, and it just makes everything weird. But being pushed from the past is indeed a limit case of credulity, in my opinion too. And so I was just thinking about rainbow cosmos theory, and in my multi-dimensional infinite philosophy series, my multi-dimensional video, Mapping Hyperspace, number 3 in the Phi Phlow infinite philosophy series. Oops, I lost what I was saying. I lost what I was saying. Multidimensionality, mapping hyperspace. What did I say? Oh yeah, Rainbow Cosmos Theory. In that one I mentioned it too, in that video. Rainbow Cosmos Theory is essentially that, you know, the different wavelengths of the spectra, of the electromagnetic spectrum, sort of, this is their postulation, which I think is reality, and how it would have happened, in at least one way. So they were saying, you know, instead of just a bang, you know, out of nowhere, they're postulating like a layering of the spectrum. And I can definitely see how that works. And I also think consciousness comes about from the layering process. You know, consciousness itself is obviously the one, or God, which at 2012, the grand cycle, Earth is actually the adumbration of God, the end state. So let's backtrack for a second. So yeah, I do think, you know, that creates sense-stored electrical waves, what most people call consciousness, which is not what I call consciousness. I call that sense-stored electrical waves. So this sense-stored electrical waves process, but I'll use the word consciousness because it's easier for me to say that. So I think that creates consciousness, or sense-stored electrical waves read each other. So the lower waves are reading through the higher waves, you see? So you got these waves going, higher frequency of wave, and then the lower ones read through that. So that's got to be a part of it. Because I notice when I, with my light body, scan up through my body to try and remember something, it'll hit something. I feel this. I literally, look at me, I'm not lying, I feel this. I feel like a point where the information is actually hit in my brain. That's how sensitive I am. I'm feeling my light body. This is how it appears. This is what I think is going on. It appears that my light body is scanning my brain. It gets up to my brain where the thought is stored in it's frozen music. It's, you know, the frozen architecture of my neurons, even though they're moving and with brain plastic and rah, it's stored there. So I actually feel the point where it hits that, or at least the brain center. And like I'll feel in my head. And, you know, I'm thinking this is the way reality works through. And you can see the word feel goes with sense-stored electrical waves. I'm sure I'll talk about this a lot more in my career as philosopher, so... Anyway, what I wanted to just do this video was just pondering. No answers, no you know, thrill that kills. Just the search. You know, we're just gonna leave the search open, and so let's get back to what I was pondering. I was pondering why. Why is it all? You know, why is Wally? Why is anything? That was one thing I went into, the Rainbow Cosmos thing, and I was thinking about the layering, but that's not purpose, that's just, you know, the physical happenings. You know, and then another thing came to me. Sorry, my legs are getting a little sore. Another thing came to me, I was thinking about, yeah, I was thinking about that process, and then I was also thinking about how some people think everything is just happenstance, you know, which means like for no reason, like, you know, the whole universe is happenstance. And then I thought, well, why is the limit case of credulity the Big Bang? And I think, yeah, I agree. And why? Well, because, you know, the whole universe, which we are in, or you are the universe. You know, Rumi said, that poet, he said, you know, the universe and the light of the stars shine through me. I also think this from my experience. As Terence McKenna said, everything else but your experience is unconfirmable rumour. As my other friend Seijo Thyme says, the only fact is all is fiction. And, you know, it's funny. It's true in some sense, because I remember Terence McKenna also used to go on about how everything is made of code or language, and it's like a story out there. You know, we're in some kind of artwork that's like a story. And we're not going to go into free will, because that's an absolute delusion of the ego. I mean, even neuroscience is showing this with 7-second delays. You know, go look on the Neuroscience Mania Man page in www.consciousazine.com, and you can just Google neuroscience and free will. Okay, so yeah, I was just thinking, it's funny how everyone think, oh well, you know, not everyone, but some people think, you know, everything's happenstance, and you know, that is just beyond thickness. That is real denseness, you know. I remember Terence McKenna said something one time about people, you know, just, I guess he was describing organic portals, but he didn't have that nomenclature to say those words. But in my opinion, he was describing organic portals, and he said, it's like they're made of denser stuff than us. I mean, it's like you can part these people like wheat. Terence McKenna. But yeah, and when he said that, well, that was one of my all-time favorite things he said, because I just went, like, it really resonated with me. I think me and Terence McKenna do have some of the same resonances, or we ride the same resonances, some of the same resonances, or something like this. That's a story for another day. I also suspect I might have higher cortical folds extra or more than usual. I remember I was reading about Einstein's brain and how they think that his extracortical, the outside, you know, the most recently developed part of the brain, the outside, that layer there, the cortex, yeah, that's what it's called, isn't it? Neocortex and then cortex, yeah. So they were saying that Einstein's genius was, you know, maybe relational to the extracortical folds. So yeah, that was just something completely off track. So let's get back on the track. Sorry about that one. So yeah, I was thinking about, you know, why is it all and stuff. And, you know, I can't find any answer yet, or any, you know, existential answer to the existential question of what's the meaning of life and what's the purpose of life. You know, I can't really find an answer, because I don't want to just give an answer, like, it has to be solid. That's like the biggest, you know, answer you can give. So it has to be bloody solid if I'm going to put one out there. And, you know, until now, and you can't quote me on this, that's what I'm saying, until now I've pretty much just thought simply the meaning of life, or the reason we're here, is for the reason of experience. I thought, oh, that's so lacking. I thought that's a very lacking answer, but maybe you're onto something. So I was thinking about, you know, how it all works, and the dimensional theory. Now, that 12-dimensional model, that's a model of physicality, a dimensional model of physicality. It might not tell us everything about the beings of the threshold, or post-threshold angels and beings who come through the stars, and that it might not do much in that way, because indeed there are infinite dimensions, but only in the sense of, you know, that you can describe a dimension infinitely, sort of thing. And you know how Carl Jung, this famous psychologist, he said you can never completely work out an archetype. Well, it might be pretty similar with the dimensions, I think, in my opinion. Yeah. There's always, and you know, Terence McKenna, I think he said something one time that goes with that, about there's always a missing bit. You know, he was saying something like that. There's always a magic bit. That's right. He said there's always a magic bit. As in one, you know, in computer science, what you're seeing now, me, is going to be recorded through the computer in ones and zeros. That's a bit. And then, you know, say 1110 can make up a byte of information. That's computer science. So he was saying there's always seemingly a magic bit. And I thought, there definitely does seem to be. Because, if not only just for the reason of having to be that way, there has to be a magic bit for it all to work. I don't know. But, you know, the whole thing of 2012 and what happened was the impinging of all the resonances, presumably back to the beginning of the universe, and it's that same wave pattern repeating. If you watch Terence McKenna's time wave video, the 24-minute version on YouTube, and the epochs of time. You got one here that large, and then you've got another one here smaller, and then a smaller, and they all compressed into the end date. That's what 2012 was. Forgot where I was going with that. Oh, and by the way, ADHD people like to look away. So if you, and this troubles me in my life, sorry, we have to do this tangent now, I'll bring it up now. ADHD people do look away because they're accessing the information, and they're doing that, you know, they're accessing the information and stuff, and they can't concentrate while looking at you because our sensory stimuli is, I think, different. The way we pick up sensory stimuli is different in us ADHD people and maybe ADD people as well, because it's just attention deficit disorder, attention of what's in front of us, because so much is coming in. We're reading it all. We're more open than you non-ADHD people. We're not more closed, and we're not stupider or anything. We're only stupider when you treat us stupider. We're actually more brain plastic than you. Yeah. So we ADHD people like to look away. I read that once in a Fizzle.com science article, and I realized, oh shit, that's true. I do that. And so please, if someone's looking at you, don't think they're not interested in you or something. I do that to so many people, and it's kind of something I can consciously seemingly alter. You know, I do think everything is fate, which means, you know, I was meant to alter it. But yeah, so I can seemingly help myself in that a little bit, but I still do it sometimes when I'm in reaction, which is this previous 20 billion year cycle of the universe up until 2012. As Riser 5 from Game of Enlightenment and Abundance says, we're moving now from reaction to creation in a mega cycle sort of inclination. And ascension is stepping out of a circle. So, boop, the arrow out of the circle. That's ascension. Anyway, let's rewind way back. Why is everything? I've got no idea what I'm going to call this video yet. I just thought I'd start recording and talking to myself, because that's what us crazy people do. But remember, do not forget, you know, the thing is that smart people look like crazy people to dumb people. Anyway, so why is everything? Fucks me. No, I don't know. But you know, I was thinking about all the deepest etiology. Etiology is like the study of causalities and stuff, you know. I was thinking etologically and ontologically, as in my relationship to what seems to be happening, or reality. And etologically, I was thinking, you know, why is reality? And I was thinking, what I do know, creation occurs down dimensionally, so we create down through the dimensions. the higher dimension has the effect of adding on to the lower dimensions, and the lower dimensions have the effect of grounding out, so to speak, the higher dimensions. So, very interesting. I was thinking, okay, we know that. That's obvious. And why is it obvious, I thought? Because these people are going to want evidence for your philosophy, Benjamin. These organic portals always require hard physical evidence. Remember, they're denser than us. They're made of denser stuff than us. They require always evidence. The intuition seems to be nowhere. But they always require evidence. So I thought, well, what's some evidence that you can give them then? Here's your evidence. We started with a sea of electrons. What I'm about to describe to you is just a trend. That's the physical evidence, because it's physical. So here's how it is. We started with electrons, and then we moved to atoms. Now that's a state of complexity more complex. As Terence McKenna said, the founder of the time wave zero, the universe is a complexity creating and conserving machine. And that's obvious because also what I'm telling you, this same trend, which is how I'm going to show you that creation occurs down dimensionally, is also another way of showing you what Terence was saying there. So we started with electrons, and then we had atoms. That's already a state of complexity more. Also, what is it though? It's differentiation more. So we can see that there's always going to be more differentiation. There's always going to be more complexity. Or as Riser from the Goldring game says, bad paraphrasing, but he always says things along the lines of, the Black Alliance are those standing in the way of the flow, the universal river flow, or the vector entropy, if you're a very scientific sort of thinking person. So he says, they always stand in the way of the flow. And, 2012 is like a wave crashing onto the shore, and those people in the way, like little sand crabs, they're just going to get washed out of the way. He always says, it's like a wave breaking onto the shore. They're going to be swept away, basically. And yeah, so we can see that reality, the new thing that has to happen on Earth is for a more loving, expansive, telepathic unity in oneness, not a slower, denser, what do I usually say there? Slower, denser, more restrictive reality, and stuff like that. The universe is boding not for a slower, denser reality like these people want to make. They want to slow everything down, dense it down. They're acting as gods over other men. This is not the way. The way is now going to bulldoze over them, so to speak, literally. And yeah, so anyway, let's rewind again a bit. So yeah, you've got the electrons. Now this is going to show you down-dimensional creation, apart from all the other things it can show you. That's why I always have to tangent, because I want to try and tell you the other things that you're not seeing as well. Because I can see all this stuff. I have to... That's why I always tangent so much, because I'm trying to just at least mention the other things so that maybe you'll go have a look for yourself. Anyway, let's get back to what I was really trying to say. So, downward dimensional creation is one thing I was thinking about that I do know about reality in my ponderings of why is reality. So, you got electrons, then you got atoms, more complex state already, right? Also notice it's more stuff. It's more things made out of stuff. Now that's the big sentence there. More things made out of stuff, okay? And then, you know, you've got biology, RNA, DNA and all that, and then you've got us, complex biology. And then you've got these computers. You've got these robots, these ITs, or information technology in general, sorry. Bad grammar for me there. So, you know, you've got your electrons, which are in this Heisenberg principle state, don't forget. You know, the Heisenberg principle, you can't tell where an electron is around an atom at the same time that you can tell its speed. You can't do both at the same time. That's the Heisenberg principle of physics. It's an axiom in physics. So basically, or essentially, or quintessentially, I might say, those electrons are like a higher buzzing state compared to us, sort of thing. Yes, I know we're made of electrons, but we're just talking about the swarm that was the electron ocean at the beginning of the universe, of the physical body of the universe. So that it's like a higher buzzing state, and then the electrons, you know, obviously been. This is where I'm going to stuff myself up if I'm to say that, so I won't. So just think of it as that, you know, more things out of stuff being made. Now, there's a trend there, that's the point, and that's why it's evidence. That's why it's your physical evidence for my philosophy. My nounomous philosophy, there is your phenomenal evidence, you know. So yeah, it's a trend. So you've got electrons, then you've got us, biology, and then you've got these computers, which are even denser. They're made out of metal. You're not made out of, you know, this is skin, not metal. So you've got some kind of hardening process by the look of it. Do you see what I'm saying now with the electrons, and, you know, in a higher buzzing state compared to me? You know, the computers are even in a denser state. In my robotic consciousness video, my glib I don't know, my short I forget what I called it. It was about robot consciousness, my explication on robot consciousness, I think it was called, a video. It's in the consciousazine playlist on the front page of consciousazine, pretty easy to find, all my videos. And in that one I was saying, also consciousness is not sense-stored electrical waves, and the robots will have consciousness or sense-stored electrical wave-ality. Indeed, but it'll be data from my brain in 2040 when we can upload our brain to the computer, because they've got that capacity there then. You know, 10 to the power of 40 neurons, then yeah, that's all that they'll be up to capacity with, I think, by 2040, 10 to the power of 40 neurons. I'm not sure if they'll be on the capacity of that plus the microtubule level in our brain, which is another 10 to the power of 30. So, you know, that's a lot, 40 trillion plus 30 trillion. I think they're only going to be up to 40 trillion in density of connection, the computers, by 2040, and then we can upload our brain to the computer. Now, what I was saying was that's only data taken from here to the computer. It's not going to have flow, I said. And I thought, oh no, that word's going to be a hold up for heaps of people who just have no intuition whatsoever, or just can't think or something, I don't know. I do know, actually. Sorry, I've got to stop saying that, because whenever I say that, I do know. But I can't regress right now into that. Oh, fuck it, we'll regress. Let's regress, fuck it. No, let's not. Or should we? No, let's keep talking about what we're talking about. I'm sure that'll come up again one day. So, we were talking about the trend of down-dimensional creation, which appears to be. So you can see that things are like getting harder. Now, I do say, though, in my works, and you can quote me on this, IT is a simulacra of reality. And it's funny, it's come about in the last blink of an eye at the end of the first grand cycle of 20 billion years. And by the way, I think the next grand cycle might only be 1 billion years. I've heard this thing about each successive grand cycle is 20 times quicker. That's not from Terence McKenna's work. That's just, I don't know who that came from. I've seen it in several places over the internet. So whether that's true or not, all that would mean is that the next grand cycle is only 1 billion years, not 20 billion. 20 billion years is how long it's taken the Milky Way to go around the central sun of the universe. That's what we're positing here, people like me. And 2012 was all these little epochs in part of this grand cycle of becoming. You might say a sort of popping out is occurring now, like the Dr. Quantum video where he pops out of flatland. A similar concept might be happening now, that we're popping out into the higher dimensions. So there is some sort of upward dimensional creation going on too, via, as Reiser says, dissonance. Yeah. Down dimensional creation occurs through accelerating harmonics, and I'm guessing there is upward dimensional creation as well, or feedback. Sorry, I lost what I was saying. Or feedback, yeah, up the dimensional chain, so to speak, wherein now 2012 is like this pop out into fourth and fifth dimensionality. Really, they're the dimensions we're going to understand quite well. I have a note, fifth dimensional perspect, which is similar to Eckhart Tolle's thinking. Anyway, so you can see a trend of densification, and I thought, well, surely that must point a little bit to what's going on, or why is the universe. It must, because I mean it's such a big theme. It's not like, it's a big theme, So yeah, I was just thinking about that, like, it's very strange. But I can't figure out, I remember one video Reiser was saying everything's sort of filtered down from infinite timeless awareness into 3D zonal realities, which is what 3D is. It's like a bunch of zonal realities all meshed together, sort of thing. And now remember, there's evidence for that too. That's one that you would think there'd be no evidence for, but then I thought, oh shit, there is evidence. Remember the 2006 documentary Down the Rabbit Hole, What the Bleep Do We Know? Well, in that video I just realised there's evidence. The part where they're on the basketball court with the basketball, and then they show that the basketball's atoms don't actually touch the atoms of the basketball court. Nothing is actually ever touching, apparently, according to that video and those scientists, which were some of the best scientists in the world at that time. I think still are, because Stuart Hameroff, the guy off that video, has made a bloody extrapolation of what the soul is, and he's saying there's an imprint, or I think he's saying essentially the soul is in the microtubules, that layer down there. And I said in one of my web pages, obviously it's not, the soul is not trapped there. The soul is more a flowing thing, and it's got to do with your astrolatry, your relationship to the stars. Astrolatry does not mean worship of the stars, it means star relations, by the way. And so maybe that's some correlation with that, I was thinking too. But yeah, shit, I've lost myself again. God, with the tangenting. Endless tangenting. Oh yeah. So there is evidence for that. That 3D zone, the third dimension is all 3D zonal realities. Now you can think of them as subatomic, local groupings of particles, quarks and whatever. But yeah, just in a different way, you can also think of me as a zonal reality, you as a zonal reality, and that's why everyone reses with different things, and there's billions of perspectives and stuff. I think of it as, well, I can visualize it, and in that multi-dimensional Phi Phlow Infinite Philosophy 3 video that I just made, hyperspace, mapping hyperspace and multi-dimensionality. In that one I was going on about this too, so you should probably watch that one if you're interested in this more, so that I can move on right now to continue what I was saying. So the evidence is there for the 3D zonal realities. Why? It sort of matches Walter Russell's drawings too, I noticed, in my opinion. There's something similar there. Walter Russell done all these drawings of how particles come into creation, lacking the showing of the specific path of each scalar wave, which makes the point particle in the end. That's, you might say, the scalar wave path, the path which the light takes out of the probabilities in the wave, the scalar wave path makes the point particle. So now you can see the fourth dimensional reality is a tangential zone of energy. The fifth dimension is like a membrane for the sixth dimensional grid to sit on. And then you've got other dimensions, seventh dimensional tunnel harmonics and mathematics, which go through the architecture of the sixth dimensional sacred geometrical metamorphic paradigmatic architecture. Then it goes through that grid. That is the threshold. That's the threshold that all psychedelic people are always talking about. Yeah, you can go there. That's the weird thing about this whole thinking about reality thing, because even if I regress right back, I mean, I can talk about this for days, because even if I regress right back, I always see things that, how does it match? Not that they don't match, it's how does it match? How, why, whence, not just what and where, These are the philosophical, this is the mind of a philosopher, or how it should be, That's how one should think when philosophizing. All the why and the how, too, or mainly. So the down-dimensional thing is shown via that evidence, because if nothing's ever touching, it showed on the video that what the blip do we know video, so the basketballs, atoms, and they weren't quite touching. There was always a charge there and a seeming non-touchingness, and that would prove third dimensionality as individual zonal realities. Okay. So let's move on from that. What else do I think about the universe? Yeah, and then I always think, okay, so it comes through the star vortexes, but what's on the other side? Now, this is our job, to map hyperspace. We don't have many maps or any maps of hyperspace, really. The only real maps of hyperspaces are the people's experiences on psychedelics, after-death experiences on the operating tables, all this sort of thing, and a lot of that's hard to interpret, and people are interpreting those things with such backward things like, Christian views and shit, like, oh, God came to me in the light, and yeah, but it's not a guy sitting at the end of the light on a chair farting, not anthropomorphic. That's not God, for fuck's sake. And so I always try and match all these things up, so You know, rainbow cosmos theory is a recent thing I learned, so how does that match up with dimensional creation? Could it be, as I was saying in that last video, the mapping hyperspace multidimensionality philosophy video, could it be, God, I'm sick of saying that already, could it be that, you know, these dimensions correlate to physical planes like the atomic plane or the electron plane, you know, or parts of the electromagnetic spectrum? What if these dimensions correlate to there? And then what I was saying earlier in this video is I think indeed they do. And that 12-dimensional model, you know, that's just a model for physicality, not for explaining everything ever, always. And, you know, it's not some ends to all means. It's just an explanation of physicality, and it is really matching up with how reality works, you know. Schematics is sort of 7th dimensional then, you can see. What did I say before? I said 7th dimensional tunnel harmonic. Sorry? I said 7th dimensional tunnel harmonics and mathematics. So that gives me a tunneling effect from coming from somewhere. What's the 8th dimension? I don't know. The only thing I've been able to think of is code coordination. Whether that happens via how a galaxy is aligned to another galaxy, I'm not sure. Is there a physical correlate, is what I'm saying. I'm not sure. But there might well be. And it might well be exactly how I just said it. So yeah, I'm always trying to match it and correlate to physicality for the reason of, you know, every theory, for the reason of seeing, well, you know, this stuff here seems to exist, you know. It hurts when I don't know, bash my finger. So, I mean, this is happening or real, as people say. This physicality. So I'm always trying, there is the numinous, there is that. Stuff that is intangible, like thoughts. Now, we create them into tangible things, realize that. That's another proof of the down-dimensional creation process right there. That thoughts create things made out of stuff. So yeah. What to think about next is the question. So yeah, I'm always trying to correlate those, and you know, before I was just thinking like, where do you go from there, you know? What does that really give me? I was crying to myself. You know, what does that give me? Because it gives you, you know, again, what science is trying to give the world, something that you can use, you know. So it gives you usability, but you know, it doesn't lead me to the answer of the question, what's the meaning of life, and so on. Those questions, which are my questions, I guess. As a philosopher, I really need to be like having an answer there, don't I? Because that's kind of my job, you know. For humanity, that's kind of my job. That's my reason for being. Well, one of my main reasons for being is, you know, breaking the grounds of reality. You know, I'm a system buster. I break reality and I enter in the new code, and I program. I'm a programmer of new reality at this time in reality. So. What does that give me? You know, it gives me fuck all. Really, I'm after the crux of it. You know, what does it give me? I thought, you know, yeah, you've got some correlations to physicality. You're probably definitely helping a lot of people figure out a lot of stuff, because this is some overarching stuff we're talking about here, guys. This is overarching. I mean, this arches over science. This arches over half of your fucking thoughts. You know. This is some overarching shit. That's what I'm in the business of. Sitting around and thinking. Well, you say, oh, it's an easy job. Yeah, well, these lines on the forehead don't come there for no reason. But, alright, so what do I have there? You can see that reality is created from higher dimensions. Okay, then you've got nothing, kind of thing, you know. The ball sort of stops rolling. It's like, okay, that means that I have to figure out the higher dimensions to figure out the answer to my question of what's the meaning of life and why is reality, you know. Difficult task, to say the least, no. Shall I do these ones? Difficult task, no, grasshopper. So, then what's to think? So why is it all? Why? If there is an infinite timeless awareness, why even have reality, you know? And, you know, Riser, I love your work, and I'm definitely not trying to get under your skin there from something you've said, you know, infinite timeless awareness, what you were saying in that video. But, you know, if that, then why everything? You know? Yeah, it's a bugger of a question, isn't it? If there is, you know, higher dimensionalities with angels and, you know, beings there, which I've seen something, I don't know where or when or what. Well, I kind of do know what. It's on the Spirit page and consciousazine, and that was at the start of the galactic cycle of the Mayan, not just general compression, but the Mayan compression of consciousness calendar that Dr. Kalaman created. Not calendar, but pyramid, sorry. And in the galactic cycle, which was in 2011, now notice this is another person who is not Terence McKenna, also noticing compression and modeling compression of reality and thought and whatever. So, you know, something went on there. Terence just has the actual theory. He says, look at the graph, young sir. You know, he's got the theory. It's there. At least part of it anyway, you know. But you can see that there's an overarching, again, a trend, which is me as a philosopher. I always am looking for trends because, you know, they can speed up your thinking. And get you to deeper thinkings, to deeper levels, you know. When you see a trend, so then you can excuse all of the trend's features and just have the trend. So, and you use that as an axiom in your philosophy. That's how I do a lot of thinking anyway. I forgot where I was again. Oh yeah. So if there is a infinite timeless awareness or whatever, you know, why then reality? Now, even though I have a half answer, I still can't get to the full answer of why reality then. Why physicality, sorry. You know? So, this infinite timeless awareness thing that Riser said does correlate to something for me, again. Not physical evidence stuff, but it correlates to me something that came out of my own experience, so to speak, or something that's come specifically to me. That is that not only, as Terence knew, and I had a vision 6 months before I heard Terence speak about this, so I'm not just copying what he says, not only are we being pulled from the future, but, you know, obviously how is the question. How does it work? That's the big one. And, you know, not only are we being pulled from the future, but I think I figured out one way in how we are being pulled from the future. And that's through end state ideals, I call it. End state ideals. So God is an end state ideal, probably the biggest one. Now, all our human perfection, all our striving for human perfection, I should say, would obviously be an adumbration of that end state of perfection. Do you see now how the end state ideal, which is nounominous, is attracting all that's phenomenous to it? So in linear time, it exists over there in the future. But what Reiser is saying in his work, I think, in that video, is that infinite timeless awareness he mentions, it's somehow existing now, but you know, our time metrics, the way in which we measure time, are just out of whack. There's much more than linear time. Firstly, Terence McKenna said time has many densities and levels, or layers, I think he said. Many layers and densities, yeah. He said, Terence McKenna said, time has many densities and layers. Many layers and densities, I think was his exact quote. You know, by our metrics of measuring time, none of this stuff makes sense. It's un-Englishable, in other words. Our language has to be upgraded to allow for the downloading of the full meaning. It's like meaning here. Imagine my hand as the meaning of something, or what we're talking about specifically here. And then, you know, our English is little dots, and it's like the meaning can't fit into the little dots of words trying to describe the thing or the meaning, you know, the infinite timeless awareness in this case. So I'm trying my best. So it does correlate to an end state ideal, this infinite timeless awareness. That's kind of one thing I do know, I'll say, just for me. So it correlates to this end state ideal, and it also correlates to Walter Russell's words, quote unquote, the still single light, which he calls God, which is what, you know, we, or I should say you Christians and stuff out there who call the thing that you call God, Walter Russell calls that thing the still single light. And in my opinion, without saying it, Terence McKenna called it the transcendental object at the end of time. All three ways, including my way, and those two ways, my way was, remember, end state ideal, compress all those three things, me saying end state ideal, Terence McKenna saying transcendental object at the end of time, what was the other thing we mentioned? And the other thing I mentioned, just rewind the tape. Those three things that I've just said there, compress them all in. We're talking about God then, aren't we? So, well, it seems, you know, what the fuck else are we talking about? It's a hyperdimensional object. So I think we're talking about the light, that which is God. The still single light, whence all motional, think atoms and electrons now, that's motional light. The still single light, whence all motional light cometh, I think is what we're talking about now. Infinite timeless awareness. Now this light, this thing, it has this ability to magnate things towards it. Because that's what happened to me during 2012. I've only just figured this out in the last couple of months. That's how to describe what's happened. There was a magnacy. Terence McKenna described it as, at the end, what do you think there will be, Terence? And Terence said, someone asked him, and Terence said, well, I imagine it to be like a magnet moving under a piece of paper and the iron filings, us humans, standing at attention. And that's exactly what happened. I watched millions, I didn't personally watch millions, but there was millions of light workers suddenly appearing, you know, coming out, saying, hey, I'm a light worker, I'm here to do all this good stuff, and that's good. But yeah, that was the transcendental object coming through those people. Now that's not what I posit, that's what I can now see. I'm definitive on that. That's how it's happened. It's obvious to me now. So this higher dimensional object is at the concrescent points of reality. Wherever there lay a concrescence, there lay this transcendental object, or an adumbration, or its magnacy lay there, you would say. This is all only coming together now, while I'm shooting this video for you. So there are those epochs I mentioned, epoch shorter and shorter creodes into the end 2012, the end date. So shorter and shorter creodes and epochs. Now, into this end 2012, that was the event horizon, or the white hole. Okay? Now, like a black hole in physics, a white hole of concrescence into new complexity domains will always have the magnacy of this transcendental object there, always. It's always going to have an event horizon. Any concrescence like this in time will have an event horizon where you cannot see over. Only until you've passed through the naked singularity can you see over the other side, So that's what 2012 was. It was a concrescence. Now, what's the meaning of concrescence? Well, that word was made by Alfred North Whitehead, and it means, a human walking in the forest. You are a concrescence. You're more complex than the medium that you're in. I'm a concrescence compared to all the organic portals on the planet, definitely. And even many souled humans are more complex than most of you, definitely. So a concrescence is like a complexity knot, a knot in reality. So yeah, there will always be, God will always be there, the transcendental scintillating object, this thing that I've seen in a vision, which I've called it the liquid living stone, or the philosopher's stone. Now, I think that's just the way it's appearing to us now. In the next major grand cycle in 1 billion years from now, maybe it will show a different form. I highly doubt it, because I understand the form of this ball of light that I saw, which could mold into anything instantly. And it said to me, all quotes that you've ever heard from any great person ever came from me. I went, oh, okay. But I perceived it to be the logos of Earth. That's when it all connected for me. When I perceived that, it connected. Then I went, oh shit, balls. Earth, right now, is acting as God. You can say all of the flow of the universe has gone into Earth. We're the hub of complexity. We're the height of complexity. There's no pro bono proctologists from Zenebel-Canusi, little grey aliens in 1,000-ton beryllium ships. There's none of that shit yet, okay? All aliens come true to eye, and their future identities re-entering timelines. And when those crazy conspiracy theorists say, oh, I have a son who's a hybrid, I figured that one out too. I thought that, oh, they're just nuts. But it's true, because planets characterize and manage energy which are coming through the stars, right? Now, these alien forms which will exist in the future, because I've talked to many people about the alien stuff now, and their visions. That's what I was concerned with. The visions. Tell me, what did you see? Not actually what do you think you saw. What happened. I just wanted to know what happened so I could interpret it. Yeah, so all ETs, or extraterrestrials, come true to eye. The third eye, yeah, the single stream of light. Oh, don't worry, I'll tie this back in. I'm circling around, I've just got to figure out how to tie it back in. Yeah, so we're the height of complexity, and I posited in my Genesis Singularis video, YouTube video, that Earth is acting as God now. It is the adumbration of God now. at this concrescence. So I was saying epochs. Well, imagine a concrescence here and a concrescence here, and just that keeps going, you know, concrescences into more and more complex domains of reality. What was I going to say now? Yeah, so at every concrescence, it's like, you can think of it as physical reality is up here, and then you dip down into something. It's like you dip down into higher dimensionality. It's really as if the saying that my friend gave me is true. Inward, onward, and upward. Inward, onward, and upward. So that's why you get future visions. Onward, upward. That's why they're high dimensional visions. You know, like you can read of my vision on the spirit page at the Galactic Cycle, where I actually saw entities or spirits. Andromedan violet flame invocation on the spirit world, spirit page, or the spirit world page in consciousazine. I forgot what I've called it. I think it's just called the spirit page. The spirit world. Anyway, so yeah, at each concrescence there will always be magnacy, the magnacy of the one. There is no other. Yeah, and God, Earth is God right now, and this thing that I saw, which I thought was the Philosopher's Stone, which may well be God, you know, itself, talking to little old me. Well, why not me? I'm part of this universe. Why not me? Yeah. Anyway, so God was talking to little old Benjamin. You didn't tell me much, did you? No, well, so after that vision, I called it the liquid living stone, because I saw how the light reached into physicality. This is what I saw. It's almost as if you're in some sort of higher dimension looking onto the vision of what the thing in the vision is telling you. It's just extra weird. Observing yourself, you know? Yeah, and so after that vision I called it the liquid living stone, and it was like I could see the light would reach from this ball into there, which was like my body, right? And remember how I said I was looking from some sort of higher dimensional or out of body thing, sort of vision. And yeah, it showed me how it reaches up into things. And it said all the quotes that you've ever heard, Ben, you know. It didn't say Ben, but it said all the quotes you've ever heard. All those greats. All the great quotes you've heard came from me. I went, oh. That's a big claim. But I understand it, because it's a higher dimensional object. You know, at first, in a glib way, even I almost didn't, but I almost thought, you know, oh, that's a hell of a claim, mate. You know, I basically thought that, but, you know, skipped straight over that thought, because I thought, well, this isn't, I don't have a vision like this every day, something's happening here. These visions don't happen every day, which tells me something. They are profound. Them themselves, the visions, I think are concrescences or something. I don't know, maybe that's not the best way to describe them, we'll leave that. But yeah, there's something about visions, you know. Language is always trying to go visual, but there's never a point where it's either or. Interesting. Anyway, so at each concrescence lay the magnacy of the Transcendental One. And this thing that I saw, which is on the Dream and the Stone page, the last page in consciousazine.com, there's a little document of actually what I wrote out like 5 minutes after I saw this vision. I thought, oh, that was like the most profound vision. I have to write about this. I was actually on psilocybin cubensis too. I would not say this is a vision that came from the psilocybe after having taken the magic mushroom psilocybe cubensis numerous times. I would not say that that's like some norm of the vision, or that's something that you might expect on the psilocybe, only because I might say that only because you're in a more open state, but I wouldn't say it solely based on how the psilocybe acts on people. This was definitely a profound vision on the timeline. It was part of my timeline awakening. It was not, had nothing to do with the psilocybin. The psilocybin simply allowed a more open state, or my ego to fuck right off for a second and to have no judgment and just be inhaling, not exhaling all over what the thing was trying to tell me. You know, actually listening for real. Where are we up to? Where are we up to in The Fable of the Universe by Benjamin Cowenberg? Okay. So we've got some correlations to down-dimensional creation and that kind of stuff. Yeah, well, this is a lot more pondering than I did just for 5 minutes before. It's turned into more than an hour, but yeah, good. Alright. Just thinking of what to think about. Yes, that's where we're up to. So if this end state ideal, it's like a ball in the future, some perfection God ideal state, right? That's what we're just putting up here to entertain, as an idea to entertain. So you got this ball of light, the all-encompassing, all-omnipotent, all-omni. You've got the omni at the end, right? So we've got the omni. We're beholding the omni. The omni can be beheld. Behold. Alright. Remember, don't forget, crazy people seem like dumb... No, what was it? Smart people seem like crazy people to dumb people. Alright. Keep that in mind. Alright. So we've got the omni. Omni. Right here. So then I imagine, and this is the vision that I had 6 months before I even heard of Terence McKenna, and coincidentally saw all of his videos 1 month before the Eschaton's peak, the end date 2012. Pretty synchronistic. So we've got the omni, and this is, the vision was so quick. That was a vision long before the liquid living stone vision that I was just talking about for the last like 10 minutes. This was a vision before that vision, and it was would have been halfway through 2012, about 6 months before I even heard of Terence. So it was approximately June 2012 when this vision happened. And the vision was the omni. It was like a ball of light, and it was this reach thing. But that's not all the vision was. It was like the reach through the cosmos, and boy did it happen that quick. Now here's a very important thing, actually, I just realized. It all happened very quick, I was going to say, this vision. Now isn't that funny? Because there's cycles of reality which are picoseconds, femtoseconds, seconds so quick they're a billionth of a human time second. You know, so not just 1, 2. In those 2 seconds, I don't know, maybe 2 billion femtoseconds or picoseconds occurred. I forget their magnitudes. But like a picosecond is like, I think a second for an atom or something, or a femtosecond. Anyway, go research femto and picosecond to understand what I'm saying. I've forgotten because it's been a long time since I read that. So I was just thinking, you know, this vision happened so quickly for me. And I was just going to say, someone on the other side, you listening to me now, right now, is probably thinking, oh, how convenient, Ben. How convenient. Oh, the vision happened so quickly you could barely comprehend it. Hey, Ben? How convenient. Well, even, I agree. But you have to realize what I was just getting into there. Perhaps there's a whole part of reality that happens, you know, so quick. I was clicking my fingers so quickly that, you know, it's, to our perception, our slow, dense perception, it's like, you know, it's just too quick to register on our in our brain at some level of, say, the neuron level. Maybe our neurons aren't equipped to be able to handle no, that's wrong. Obviously they're equipped to handle quick cycles, obviously, otherwise we wouldn't exist. But you would say there's a lot of information loss. That's it. Yeah, that's it. Played around with this idea before, information loss, and why visions are so hard to English out. Probably also similar to why dreams can be so ephemeral. But not really. No, that's probably going to give you the wrong idea. Forget that about the dreams. So I've played around with this idea before of information loss and how the higher dimensions and the lower dimensions interact. So definitely, thanks for bringing that up, wherever that thought came from. Thanks above. So it definitely fits into this video. Yeah, information loss. It's like, you know, passing. I do computer programming at university, so I'm programming games at the moment in object-oriented programming, or as part of my subject IMAD 2, which is Interactive Multimedia Applications Development. And now, remember how I said IT is a simulacra of reality? Yeah, well, I've really seen that in programming. See, now that I'm programming, it's kind of like I'm the god. You see, I'm programming. I'm writing, what does that object, the little man on the stage, do? Does he move and walk? I'll program that in. You know, object little man, walk over here, you know. So you can see that that's how God would, I'm doing this because that's not my own words, but you can see how God would program reality when you start doing a lot of computer programming. You can really begin to see how complex the universe is set up, because I'm learning basic computer code and I can already make things do stuff, you see. So the universe, obviously this place is really complex, so damn, God is a master programmer. So what was I going to say? Yeah, information loss. See, even when you pass, what is it? A decimal, a passing is P-A-R-S-E, not pass. I'm not talking about passing arguments. I'm talking about passing. P-A-R-S-I-N-G. When you pass something, it's like you pass a string, a sentence of letters, into a numeric, or the other way around. You're trying to actually change the thing, you see. So what happens when you try and pass a decimal place, 10.1, 5, 10, or whatever, you know, 5, 8, 9, 6, 5, whatever. So when you're trying to pass a decimal into an integer, which is a whole number, so you're just trying to get the 10 out of the 10.1, you're losing the 0.1. Do you see the information loss? That's how I realized, or I now posit, reality is also working, and especially these visions, and why they're so ephemeral and so hard to English. And any vision you ever have on any psychedelic, it's also like this. It takes a long time to integrate your psychedelic trip or journey into your life. All the core things, the core axioms that vision brought up, all the core revelations, takes a long time to integrate into your life. Now, that's why these visions are probably so hard to describe, because there's a fuckload or just a lot of information loss. Do you see? I definitely see this now. So the information loss. Now, obviously, there's some of that when you're downloading from a higher, infinite, timeless dimension into 3D zonal realities, then into two-dimensional things made out of stuff, like atoms and elements and actual things. It's like, I imagine the second dimension as a kind of wall. It's kind of like a wall of things. So, and 3D zonal realities, remember, so you can really see, well, I can right now see that, yes, 3D zonal realities does make sense. I'm doing a heart shape. 3D zonal realities does make sense. And why, there are so many perspectives and we're having a subjective experience. We're all one consciousness having a subjective experience. That also doesn't get me to the meaning or the purpose of existence, though. That's not a reason for existence, in my opinion. Yeah. Alright, so obviously you'll have information loss. I'm going to call this video information loss, because I've bloody tangented so many times. I'm going to call it information loss. That's what we're going to do. Alright, so obviously there's information loss. As you're coming down through the dimensionality or the dimensional construct of segregated oneness. Isn't that a oxymoron? Anyway, so also the thing I was saying earlier about the 3D zonal realities and what the bleep video showing that things don't connect, that always the atoms are not actually connecting, like the basketball on the court visual that they showed on that What the Bleep Do We Know Down the Rabbit Hole physics documentary. Yeah, that also shows that, I don't know if I want to say this because I haven't looked into it further, but perhaps in one way that kind of shows that there is a central light. And maybe that central light is that higher dimension, and it's a case of inward, onward, and upward, or from its perspective, not mine, from this infinite, timeless being's perspective. From its perspective, the Omni. From the Omni's perspective, forgot what I was going to say again. Information loss. Yeah, it's like from its perspective, it can't give us all the information instantly because our capacities are just not up to standard. It's like even the Earth is not up to the standard of the cosmos, for instance, because it's this big and the cosmos is so big, so all that information can't fit into here. However, it can through information loss or the grounding out, the simplification. That's what grounding out always is. It's a simplification. Remember how I said the higher dimensions always have the effect of grounding, the lower dimensions always have the effect of grounding out the higher dimensions. It's a simplification process, like the decimal in computer science programming, passing that to the integer. It's a simplification process. Damn, that still doesn't get you any closer to why physical reality. Why is physical reality? But at least we're making ontological headway, as far as I can tell, from what others are discussing in this world. Some glib shit, guys. Some of you people, seriously. Anyway, so, yeah, this is some non-glib shit. Like, this is some real deep stuff, isn't it? I think. That's why I enjoy entertaining it. You know, the mark of a genius is to be able to entertain an idea but not attach to it, you know. So where were we? Yeah, information loss. That definitely shows me what's going on there, yeah. Yes. So you can have all the universe's information compressed, keyword, into a tighter ball, or all the information in the cosmos can be compressed into Earth, so to speak, or all of Earth's information can be compressed into me, so to speak, and down fractally, reverberfractally. Obviously, I have a word that I made up, reverberfractally, reverberation and fractality, you know, or fractals, those two words put together. Anyway, reverberfractally, all that would obviously travel down the chain. And you would get, but as you travel down the chain into smaller and smaller bodies, if you will, or 3D zonal realities, or point particles if you want to put something in your mind side eye for an image, but 3D zonal realities. Even I am as a 3D zonal reality. So is the door handle, or the door, you know, separate. Yeah, so there's information loss. Now this is a little bit of the how all is, but not why all is. That's the real crux for me. Why is it all? Why is Wally? Why is anything? But anyway, so that information loss and what we've been talking about does show us how reality. So that's good. We're getting somewhere. So we've got, you know, like what reality is, how. Well, we don't really. Because I'm telling you, reality, I agree with Terence McKenna again. You cannot see reality as tensor equations, he said. You can't see, if you see reality as tensor equations and, I honestly, from the bottom of my heart and not in a derogatory manner, I pity you. I pity that you can't see the beauty, sort of thing. Anyway, yeah, I think that's real sad. You know, if you see reality like that, it definitely is much more magical than that. And you know, our little time frame here of viewing this reality as humans with a monkey neuronet, you know, this is what we're dipping into the dark ocean of universal mind with. This crappy little thing here, you know, the monkey neuronet. You know, and you can't measure the universe with the neuronet of a monkey, is another saying Terence McKenna said once that I liked. But yeah, alright, let's backtrack again. So you've got information loss, and I've definitely showed you now with the computer science example. That's definitely showing you the idea. You take a decimal, 10.1 in computer. I have to do this when I'm programming, and then I'll change it into an integer, a whole number, 10. It was 10.1, now it's 10. Information loss. Okay, so that's how it's happening dimensionally too. That's now become very obvious to me. I'm glad I've tied this together and made this video, because it's come together now. So yeah, you've got information loss. Now that goes with this thing, this trend of how I was saying this densifying trend that I'm noticing. You know, it was electrons at the start, moved to biology, us, and now we're into the computers, which are made out of metal. You know, so this densification process, if you will, definitely goes with the information loss thing in a way, but also in another way it doesn't. So I don't know if I should be saying that. In a way it goes with it because the computers will not have soul, they won't have that connection that we have to the infinite timeless awareness, if you will. And so you can see a dumbing down sort of process, but that's antagonistic to the idea of that the universe is a complexity creating and conserving machine, which it clearly is. So there's different levels or something, different levels going on simultaneously. So simultaneously you do seem to have a hardening trend with information loss, but yet you also seem to, on another level, have increasing complexity. And those two kind of are counterintuitive to each other, aren't they? That's something for me to think about again another day, because that's a counterintuitive two thoughts or two ideas there, which both seem to have reality. Yes, reality. Well, whoever said, you know, figuring out all that is meant to be easy, you know? You know, I can't get to the answer of why is everything. But hopefully, you know, by thinking on how is everything and what is everything and those kind of things, we can get to the why. Hopefully the why sort of falls into place, if you will, at the end. So it's good to keep entertaining this sort of stuff. I'm just thinking if anything else is going to come to me. I'm just trying to let something else come to me. But it's pretty blank in there for a change. I don't know, so we've got information loss, that's something. But why have the information loss? Why? It's like almost like you're creating an inferior copy then. Why create an inferior copy? God. It's reality to me in when I get to every one of my deepest philosophies ever, I always seem to find this phrase that I coincidentally found from Terence McKenna. And the phrase is coincidentia oppositorium. I think that's Old English then, isn't it? So it's coincidentia oppositorium. And what that means is two somethings, two wholes of whatever, coming together, molding, yet, you know, they're now then a half. They've come from being a whole into a half of a new thing, yet they're still wholly being expressed. It's called a coincidentia oppositorium. Now every time I get to the deepest ontology, philosophy, etiology that I can get to, I always find coincidentia oppositorium. I've only just realised that right now on whatever the date is today. That's very interesting. It's almost as if you can't figure it out. Yeah. And that reminds me of something, yet again, Terence McKenna said, which was, quote unquote, this is stranger than you can suppose. You can't even suppose how strange this is. And that's, you know, that's something. That's really deep, isn't it? That's something. right there. You can't even suppose. It's stranger than you can suppose. He was talking about the time wave, but I mean, I'm talking about just everything. I mean, just general reality in general. You know, obviously I can suppose the nature of the cardboard box over there, sort of. In another way we can't, because we can't seem to figure out what the universe itself is, you know, or what's going on here. One thing I want to say is never ever give in to scientific reductionism, because there is the true thrill, the true kill of the thrill of the chase, you know. Never ever give in to the scientific. I love science. Don't get me wrong, please. Everybody thinks when I say that, oh, I don't like science. I'm just a dirty hippie. Yes, I am a dirty hippie, but I love science as well. And the reason I'm dirty, I also extrapolated recently, the reason I don't use synthetic shower products and I use coconut oil and I go surfing, which is like ultra exfoliation, mind you. The reason I do that is because there's something called the Human Genome Project, which mapped the human genome. Now there's also something called the Human Bacterium Project, where they're mapping the bacterium in and on the human body. And so far we know that you have 10 times more bacteria in you compared to your cells. So you're not even you. Do you get it? You're not even you. The ego is completely fictitious. I call it the fictitious hyperspatial entity at the end of history. That's what I call the ego. Or you can call the ego the devil. The body is Satan. The ego is the devil. There are two other things I figured out that I thought I'd just throw in, because I'm a wealth of knowledge. No, remember, I'm a complexity knot, so you can now see in the way in which I see things. So anyway, let's backtrack again. Come back onto the main track. Where were we up to? Information loss and why have so what was just coming to me then was an answer, but I'm interrupted by telling you. I'm sure it'll come again, because the answer is saved in there now. Now I've got to go find it. What I hear is when those answers come is a high pitch through my crown. I'll hear a high pitched noise, then words will start to be passed. The high pitched noise is literally being passed into English. So I'll get, this is how sound creates my language. I'll get a high pitched noise. I presume it's the stars talking to me, to this body. I'll get a high-pitched noise, then the thought will arrive. You know, suddenly the words are in a string, a sentence or a string, as we call it in computer science. And so what I was just thinking was, which made this answer come, which now I have no clue of the answer, great, and we'll discuss it. What I was thinking was, why create a simple, if you've got like everything that always will be at some perfect state, why create with information loss something simplified? And just then I thought, well, for the reason of separation, you know, if there is this one the omni, God existing in the future as this ball of light, it's all perfection, it can do whatever it wants, it's got any shape it can take instantly, and it reaches back through all time and all form, and in its doing so it creates all the form. Now that's coincidentia oppositorum as fuck right there. So yeah, it comes back and this is how I imagine it, and my visions lead me to be able to say this. Walter Russell's work, Terence McKenna's saying the transcendental object, my visions, it all leads me to say that this thing, God from the future, reaches back through all time and space. You can quote me on that one. I'll stake my whole career on it and everything. If I'm not adamant about that, I can't be adamant about much, because I feel obliged to say this right now, that God reaches through, it's like a ball of light that reaches through all time and space. And it's a spreading out process as it does that. Now, I feel adamant in saying that because I feel like I have to be saying that right now. So someone, somewhere is telling me to say this right now. Let's leave it at that. So then I was thinking before, why create a simpler copy with information loss? And obviously, for that dispersing notion there, or the, we are one consciousness having a subjective experience. So that's a reason, one reason why things are. It's not the purpose of life or the meaning of life answered, but it is it is an answer of some sort, or a reason for being. Yeah. Which is kind of like how, years ago, before I got into any of this, I used to say, what's the reason for being? Well, I think experience. Just experience. I think what I meant was, and the notion that I felt while I was saying that was a light notion coming into a denser notion. So the reason of experience, as I was thinking that, I had this notion of a lighter, diffuse state coming into a denser state. So yeah. Now that's pretty much the answer that came before with the high pitch sound. It was a little bit different. I can still feel it. I'm trying to get it up and out. I can feel it. It's there. Anyway, we'll leave that for another time. It was pretty much from what I'm feeling, they're pretty vibrationally matching what I've extrapolated to in the high pitch answer that came a few moments ago. Anyway, moving on. So Okay, so I guess that gives you why being, why be. To be or not to be is the question. Well, the question for me is why be right now. So why be? For subjective experience. But why did it need that if it's this ball of light, which is like, no, if it's the same, I don't think it's the same light as the photons from the stars. This is what I'm saying. Across the threshold, all I've ever experienced does not seem to be the same light. All these visions. It's a numinous light is how I would describe it. It's intangible. I can draw to you what I saw, but that's not a way of tangible. That light itself is not then tangible. Or perhaps that's how it works. Language is always trying to go visual, Terence McKenna said once. So perhaps that's how it works. The image is beheld, and then stuff jumps out of the image. Stuff is created out of the image. It's very weird. And that's through schematics, obviously. God, what an enigmatic conundrum is the universe, you know? How intense. Yeah, I can see that though. That's how it works. So every higher dimensional experience, say 11th dimension and stuff, which I suspect the 10th and 11th and these kind of higher dimensions post threshold, so not physical at all. We're talking this other light, and I've experienced this light coming out and being so strong that it laced over the photonic light or even the electrical light. And do you know the difference between a photon and an electron is just an energy state, right? So this outer light, we'll call it electricity or electricality, can be laced over by this inner numinous light, and I know this because I've experienced it. One psilocybin trip, I experienced it crazily, but then I've experienced this not high on anything. I've experienced this light was so strong that it could lace over. Now, one time when I wasn't on psychedelics, because they do enhance this inner light, psychedelics do. When I wasn't on the psychedelics and this inner light overlaced the outer light, photons and shit, electrons, when it's overlaced that became my vision. So it's like it might be a folding inside out process. That's what I think is going on there. Now, I think it was Rumi who said, I don't want to be folded. Where I am folded, I am a lie. And many philosophers over the period of history came out with the idea of that things are unfolding, that reality is unfolding. So it's maybe that we're just thinking about the higher dimensions too physically and too unknowingly to see how this all works. Those higher dimensions remain very ambiguous to me, and many others, I think, too. They're not well mapped. They're not well understood. But what if it's that they are like an image that is energy characterized for some reason that remains, not well obvious to us right now. At least not me right now. So, I don't know, a simple way might... No, I shouldn't say that, but I will say it. God created some image sets, and then out of the image sets, through the tunnel harmonics, the 9th dimensional time waves, the 8th dimensional code coordination, the 7th dimensional tunnel mathematics, through the 6th dimensional grid, and the 5th dimensional unpolarized superconductive membrane of living light, down 4th dimensional tangentially into energy streams, into 3D zonal realities, into things made out of stuff, dense things, 2D, and then you've got the one-dimensional nexus of being. Essentially that's my map or 12th dimensional model of physicality, or how physicality is created. So far, so good, because there's nothing denying this model. And so far so good that I've managed to find some correlations for you. We have correlated, like the passing the decimal to the integer. That was a correlation, a real world evidency or empirical evidency. It's peer reviewed, it's etc. You know? So that was one correlation or evidence for what I'm saying here. But for me, there's many, and there's nothing standing in the way of this model. And thank God for, you know, Riser and people like me, and the people who are not too scared to perpetuate this for the fear of a couple of noobs out there or internet trolls having a troll and, you know, saying, oh, that doesn't fit because of this. Well, you're going to have to give me something quite incredible, because so far nothing is stacked up to de-stack this theory. You know, nothing has been thrown at it to de-stack it. So it just remains a process of figuring out exactly all the parameters of how it all works and stuff, you know, in the end. Yeah. We still haven't really got closer to why is stuff. Well, I guess we've gotten close to why is stuff, but why is, like, why is anything happening? Why is reality existing? And all that sort of stuff, and what's the purpose or the meaning of life? Supposeth I should saith something on thiseth, foreth I am a philosophereth. What is the meaning of life then? Supposeth I should saith somethingeth. The meaning of life, the purpose of life. Well, I believe I can chime in on the purpose of life. Heavy. Because this is the kind of thing that can just ruin you, isn't it? But I'm too good for that. So what's the purpose of life? One thing you could say there for sure, I think, and I'll say it, is to quote unquote be yourself. To be, let me extrapolate, to be not horizontal and soulless. I didn't say unsouled, I said soulless, without as much soul. So not to be horizontal, but to be vertically spiritual. Vertically spiritual, not horizontal. So not listening to every Tom, Dick and Harry so that you become every Tom, Dick and Harry, horizontal, but not doing that. But becoming spiritually vertical. So being yourself is the purpose of life. No. Yeah, nah. That'll do for me for now. Yeah, that'll do. So, you know, the purpose of life is to, I would extrapolate it as to say, the purpose of life is for you to bring your code to the table, for you to bring you to the table, for you to bring something to the table, not to just exist to make money. That is not the purpose of life, to he whom has the most toys at the end of his body's life is the winner. No, no, no. You're as far off the true purpose of life as you could be. And that's not all your fault, because the system is, I would say, is set up to de-soul people, but I would say rather the system has been set up in the 20th century, predominantly in the 20th century, to de-soul humans. You can't go into your workplace and say whatever you want. You definitely can't walk in there talking how I talk. And that's part of why I don't have a job. I don't want your fucking job. Keep your fucking shit job. They're crap anyway. You're wasting your one life. The one life you came here to be you're wasting on collecting toys. And you think you're not an infant human, anthropoid, monkey? You're definitely not a human, Hue_man, a man of the hue. You're definitely not that, because any man of the hue sees past that that surface lie, that surface puppetry, very quickly. And you know, that's the furthest, that's the other end of meaning of life. Living life for money over here, true meaning of life over here. You're as far away as you can be. Anyway, so yeah, this whole organic portals thing of the soulless humans is definitely, I don't know, I would say the major cause of the problems in the world today. Because when you come to the etological root of this problem, of all the problems in the world, most of them, and really a large percent, I don't want to say a percent, I don't know, 80, 90% of the problems are definitely, obviously caused from this organic portal thing, or these surface people. They've taken hold, they've taken the reins, they've been so assured. See, to them, all is what it seems. To us, the smart people, all is not what it seems, ladies and gentlemen. But to these organic portals, the surface people, or the flatlanders, you might say, keeping with the Dr. Quantum analogy from that movie Down the Rabbit Hole, What the Bleep Do We Know? These flatlanders, or soulless humans, they're called organic portals. I didn't make that nomenclature up, but I agree with the nomenclature. You know, they're the people who always require evidence. They make very good scientists because they're just information in assimilation. They're not in the know. GNO, you know, Gnostic. They're not in the know. They're in the information assimilate, which is not knowing. It's not Gnosticism. And that's what all souled humans have. We're Gnostic. We are the noosphere. We are the noosphere. We don't stand separate from it. We are the noosphere. It comes out and through the souled humans. And, you know, why am I talking about this? Well, we were talking about the meaning of existence. And one thing I do know is that one not meaning to Newspeak, or William Newspeak there, one not meaning of life is to earn money. Or no, not to earn money. One not meaning of life is to not spend your life just like chasing money. Sure, because we're trapped in the system, we have to earn money to survive somehow. Sure, but what I'm saying is, you know, that is so far from the real meaning of life, to just live your life for that, not for any, what, you don't have anything to add? Look at me adding all this stuff. I'm trying to give meaning. I'm reprogramming reality. That's what indigos are. Indigos are master programmers. And we've come to implement sub-programs and historic opportunities that have been overlooked and all this kind of stuff. System busting. We're here to break, you know, the general mundane plane of knowledge with some far out light. Alright. So I think that'll do. We didn't find out the meaning of life, maybe. But we sure as heaven found one non-meaning of life, and that is to, spend your whole life on money chasing, on getting more toys, and etc., etc. That type of way of being, that is definitely not the meaning of life. So you might say the magnus opus, or the great work, is a purpose for someone's life, is the purpose of life. When I've been saying the purpose of life, sorry, I would have confused people. I just realised I didn't mean just in general the universe. I meant, individually as people. So yeah, even though we haven't gotten to the meaning of life, maybe, in my opinion, it is to experience. That is a meaning of life. I think there's multi-dimensional meanings of life, or multiple meanings for life, or purposes of life. Multiple purpose of life answers, You can't just sit on one answer and say, oh, the meaning of life is this and full stop. No, I think it's quite obvious that it's a multiplicity, not a singularity. Because if you say the ultimate purpose is to become God, which means your resonances, I'm not just this body, your resonances which make up you and your soul nature, you might say, oh, ultimately I want to transverse and travel all the way to the Godhead at the end of all time, through many incarnations and whatever, and totally ascend to God. You might say that to me, and I'd say, okay, go for it. But what was I going to say with that? Yeah, if you say that's the purpose of life, to ascend to become God or whatever, if you say that's the purpose of life, then you're missing, that's an ends, and you're going to miss all the means, all the other purposes for life, or meanings for life. What is the meaning of life? You're going to miss all the other ones along the way. Sure, that's a great big ideal and big dream there that you've got, old chap. You've got a big dream there, young fella, to become God, eh? Yeah, good on ya. But you're going to miss all the means along the way to that ends, as a singular statement to what is, the meaning of life, or the purpose of life. So I think you have to conclude that there's obviously multiplicity of things that can be said. In my opinion, one would be to experience. Now, why? Well, the more you experience, the more you're going to be a complexity knot, which is meaning, I guess, the more chance you have of being part of a concrescence. In other words, the less chance you have of becoming atrophy. See, the more chance you are having of being vector entropy, or the vector of the entropy, and less chance you have of becoming atrophy. Atrophy means, not being used and stuff. Or, I just see it as a diffusing off the central stream of light of the universe. So there's a vector of evolution, right? I mean, this is obvious, people. Evolution exists. Admit it. Admit it. So you can also say that, remember how I said, the meaning of life is obviously not to chase money. Now that's atrophy. That's the ephemerality end. The magnus opus, or great work, is over here. Einstein, Carl Jung, Nikola Tesla, Walter Russell, they're all over here. They're greats. Copernicus, You've got all these guys. They're the immortals. I'd put myself over there too. Ben over here on the little pinky. So you've got, the great work and the magnus opus here, and the ephemeral atrophy here. So these are the vectors. Einstein, he was a vector. The universe went through him. Rumi, the poet said, the universe and the light of the stars come through me. Now Einstein, that happened with Einstein, that happened with me, Copernicus, all the other guys I named. They were the vector. They were not the atrophy of the universe. So I think we have gotten to a purpose of life. Purpose of life is 1, to experience, 2, not to become atrophy. The purpose of life is to immortalization, to become part of the universe. No organic portal ever, by definition, will ever be integrated. They're just a body. See? They're just a body. And now you can see the problems that all these bodies are making on Earth, just chasing their shallow surface dreams and etc., just popping out baby after baby. Fuck's sake! Does it comfort you that much to have all these? It feels great, I had a baby, yeah, cool. I'm sure I will enjoy having a baby if I ever have one too, but some of you people are just popping them out left, right and centre. You're taking the resources, and what the fuck are you doing, Neurotic nuclear family models all huddled into these little spaces. I can go on forever on that one. Anyway, we're going to stop on that one, because that one I can go on forever on that tangent, eh? Pisses me right off. Because we've got to get off this rock. We don't want to be stuck here. Scarcity is not our reality. The universe is abundant. There's 6 times more iron ore on Mars than there is on Earth, for fuck's sake. What were we talking about? Totally forgot. I love it. So you can say one of the meanings of life is to immortalize yourself, or to be integrated. In my Immortals note, in bensnotes.weebly.com, in the Immortals note that I've written, which is just a note. This is a website of web pages, which is not a bloody novel. It's just notes, okay? So in that note I've said, I don't care what any of you think of me, because I'm saved. I'm universally saved. You're looking at someone right now who's saved. I'm a great one of those people who were saying, the Einsteins and rah-rah. I'm one of those. I'm doing Magnus Opus. And my work, some of it is, going to be adumbrated through possibly thousands of years. Some of the things that I've laid down and said are going to be able to stand the test of time. So anyway, and that's immortalism. Well, it's by the very definition, what's mortal means, short lifespan and ephemerality. Those kind of notions are embedded in that word, of mortal. It means just being the body, really. And if you're being just the body, here's what's even stupider of you. So you're happily being the body, pumping out kids and all that. And in your pumping out of children, you're feeding yourself and all that, as we do as bodies. But remember, you're 10 times more bacteria than you are your own cells. Not by weight, but by number. Now, every sentient being is sentient. Sense-stored electrical waves. Is it coming together for you now? I hope it's coming together. So, each of these bacteria have their own little minds, so to speak. Very simple programs bacteria are, yes, in the matrix. Yes, and I'm a very much more complex program than the bacteria. I won't mention that. Anyway, in your pumping out of children, you know, and your earning and your chase of money and the fictitious American dream, which can only be loosely defined as bad eating and bad habits, really. And in your American dreaming, and you're pumping out of children, you know, if you don't leave any time for your magnus opusing or doing any great work, you haven't contributed nothing to us except for these children, who one of them might do some magnus opus, we hope, so they're not just taking resources. Because otherwise, don't you see, we're going to 10 billion people by 2030. We're at 7 billion now. 7 billion people. This is a trend, another trend. It's going to keep going up unless, you know, catastrophe strikes. Some of us hope. No, but unless pole shift occurs or something, we're going up in populace. So you've got to realize our resources are going to run out, especially if you won't stop your wars and put that energy, that, you know, the $12 trillion America spent on war, and you know, the many trillions, hundreds of trillions the world spends on war. If we put that energy into space exploration, for one instance, imagine how quickly we could get that iron ore off Mars. You know, I mean, why are we turning Earth into Mars, a devoidant planet, so, you know, pulling up all its resources when Mars is devoidant right there? No atmosphere, fucking nothing going on. So let's take it from there. So let's take our money out of the wars and believing in Allah, Buddha, Jesus, and every other man. They're just men. Jesus didn't write the Bible. You know that, love? Yeah, so when we correct our energy and take all the static out of the system of humanity, I envision a future state which I call superposition humanity. For the real analogy of, you know, the superposition idea from physics. So if you don't know what superposition is, for instance, the crystal quantum computers of tomorrow will be able to attain multiple calculation states. So they're not just doing one calculation at a time, they're doing maybe 1 million calculations like that. Okay, all at the same time. That's a superposition. I envision a superposition humanity where everybody's contributing their magnus opus, not just shit kicking around for their life and being an organic portal and pumping out children and living in their neurotic nuclear family models and being happy. Yeah, you're happy. Your body is happy. It's satisfied. But your light body is not even existent. I'll say it again. Your body is very, very happy. It's there, it's very dense, but your light body doesn't seem to be even present. Now, the whole idea of an organic portal is that they're not yet ascension, which happens via the higher heart, not the heart chakra, right, which happens through the light body, and that's then the upper triangle of the Merkaba, which is the light body vehicle. So that the idea is the soulless humans are below the heart. They're the centers, the higher centers which are active in the soulless human. They will never have a vision. That's part of this center, the third eye. So these are some ways to tell, you know, who is an organic portal and who's a souled human in this twilight zone upon Gaia at the maximum novelty domains entrance, 2012, the eschaton, you know. Because I'm always looking to try and see when I'm interacting with, or try to better figure out organic portals. So that's just why I've gone off into that spiel. And also it relates to what not to do for life and what is not the purpose. So it is a little bit relative to this video. I'm going to call it information loss though. This is a good one. Pardon me. Gone for 2 hours and 10 minutes. Cool. Don't mind if I do. Yeah, let's finish it off on this organic portal thing. So, yes, that's what I was saying. So we're going to 10 billion people. Did you consider in your popping out of children that we're going to run out of stuff? Such as precious metals, some of which, like not just precious metals but precious elements such as, say, iridium, we need for space flight, or we might need for hyperdrives and stuff. So we don't want to waste all that shit. Did you consider in your baby popping and neurotic life there, and the chasing of the ephemeral and becoming the ephemeral and becoming atrophy in this doing of yours, did you even consider, such trends as, with 10 billion people and you're all popping out all these babies and stuff, the resources are going to run low, and do you know what happens in economics then? The prices go up because of scarcity. So, demand and supply. Yes, I've studied economics in my business degree at university, so I do know what I'm talking about. And, did you consider that then the very child that you've popped out will be impacted by that higher price, or the insane price of gold when it goes to $6,000 per ounce or something, Or they might not even have access to it, because you might not be in the technological elite. You might be, the middle class. What middle class? What the fuck are you going on about? There's just going to be an absolute widening. There's going to be the elite and technological elite, because we're in the age of information, age of Aquarius too, but that's meant on different levels. One is an organic portal reference and one is a spiritual reference. Age of Aquarius, obviously the spiritual. And, coming into this age of information and the IT ramping up, because all of the IT trends are going up, like Moore's Law is the doubling of transistors on computer chips, and that's exponential now. I think the graph went exponential in about 2013 or 14 where we are now, if I remember Ray Kurzweil's chart correctly, the co-director of Singularity University in America there, his Moore's Law trend chart. I think we're now in the exponential up part. We're way past, I think we're past the curve and we're going up pretty much now. So it's almost directly up or whatever. It's a compounding, that's an exponential trend. So, with all this happening, did you consider that, they might not even have some of the stuff, firstly. Secondly, if you're all going to pop out all these babies and everyone's going to take all the resources and all this stuff, not to mention the mass production of food problem, that's it's not sustainable. Monoculture and all the other bullshit, not sustainable. But did you consider in your popping out, you're like not really adding to the world in a way. Relax. Obviously in a way you are. God. In a way, in this ephemeral surface life is how it's summarized. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not having to go at each particularization. Fine, go and get your money. But did you spend more time doing that than magnus opus? Then I think you're an idiot. That's what I'm saying. No, so in all this, did you consider, you know, you've had this little life. It's very tiny. In the scale of the universe's time, it's very tiny. It's like 1 second, do you know what I mean? In the, I don't know, the clock of your life. You know, your life is like 1 second in the universe's time or whatever. It's so quick. You know, not even a fraction of a fraction of a fraction, rah. It's so quick. Did you really, you know, come to do that? To basically not contribute you, in a way, your soul? Because remember, this is where we start to distinguish souledness from organic portalness. Organic portalness is always to do with the body and surface stuff. So, you know, yes, you've given your biology, but that's when you think you're your body. So you're incorrect with that. So really, you've given nothing. Do you see how you're not present? You're absent. That's why you call them soulless humans, because they're not present. They're absent. I have a larger postulation that, you know, it's just the light hasn't reached a certain body to make an ensouled complex or a souled human. And so that light, for what it might not, that body that is an organic portal today, my friend over there, Fred, the organic portal, whoops, lost my train of thought. Fred, the organic portal, is not meant to be a souled human in that life, is what I'm saying. Could be the case, or he could wake up and have the ascension by age 50, and when he's 50, the light from, I don't know, the Pleiades and Sirius and whatever, all the light from his soul stream has compressed through those local stars and then come to him by age 50, and then he's suddenly had the ascension and become a fully souled human. This is how it works. This is how our posit works, and this is how everybody has their star, so to speak. That is how it is that case. It's just a time factor, time difference, you see. I'm souled now, then I'm to be integrated and saved into the universal hologram, if you will. I am to be saved. I am saved. I am the vector of the universe, as well as others, souled humans. They are the vector. The indigos are the vector. And the organic portals are the atrophy. Do you see? Now, that original article, if you go to bensnotes.weebly.com and you go to the organic portals, anthropoids not souled humans note, you'll see the article by Veil of Reality where I first read this. I used to just call them societals and flatlanders and stuff, but I think organic portals are better nomenclature, and that's why I use it now. So if you go there and read that article, it'll make things a lot clearer too. But I just think of it in the way I've been telling you, you know, like surface compared to insides and all that kind of way of thinking about what an organic portal is. But yeah, so this is how stars are seeding on Gaia, on Earth. This is what star seeds are. I am a star seed. Stars have come through this body that you see and are essentially talking to you now. That is the nature of your reality. And that's the theory of the star seeds. Some of you might have heard this in the New Agey sort of movements. They'll say, I'm a star seed, or their Facebook name will be Starseed Indigo. Now, they're not crazy. They're pretty smart people. Yeah, we are. But yeah, so that's when you look. That's how you know you're definitely talking to a souled human, and a hue man, a man or woman of the hue. So that's one way to distinguish if you're talking to an organic portal for sure, or not. You know, if it's a souled human. If they're all like that, if they're all airy-fairy and seem crazy, that's a souled human. I'll say it again one more time. Smart, the thing is, smart people look like dumb people to... Sorry? Smart people look like crazy people to dumb people. Never forget that. Yeah, so what was I going to say? Yeah. So we can't just have these organic portals and this system, and that's why it's one reason why it's due to break at the seams, you know, let alone because the system is a self-destructive. The system is built from systematics which are self-destructive. I mean, you can't expect equality out of an inequality system and things like that. It's bound one day to burst at the seams. Now, I think that day is getting imminent, very imminent. I think we're on the cusp of that with people like me, myself, and we've got all these new media channels like YouTube. I don't have to approach Channel 10 News anymore. I can go to YouTube and put my story on YouTube, you see. So this is one of the new Earth programs, you know, the new media. Anyway, so we can't just have going to 10 billion people. Well, we are going to have it, but you know what I'm trying to say. It's not. We can't just have going to 10 billion people in an organic fashion, organic portal fashion, in a surface person fashion. You're going to see. If you guys continue that path, you're breaking your own beloved system. And good on you. Less work for us, our system busters who just want it gone. Or, not gone, we want to essentially totally rearrange the game. In many ways. But, you know, if you continue down that path of this surface living style, and I've only mentioned the worst there to try and upset some people because I get a kick out of it, right? This whole baby popping thing I mentioned and chasing money. I just mentioned those two quick glib things just to piss some people off, right? There's many things you can mention in that domain, right? So... if we continue down on that track, you know, it is going to get to the point where we have water wars and we have food wars. And I mean, it's going to get really messy. If you think that you're sheltered because you're in a first world country from this, no way are you sheltered from it. You might just not get it, not be the first in line, that's all. But you're in the line. That's what I'm saying. You're on Earth. You can't not be in the line. You're in the line. You are part of it. You know, you're going to be affected. So we can't continue this way. And so many people have come before me, and right now is going on about it. You know, sustainability this and renewable energy that, and etc. And these are all very surface ways to fix it, and of course needed. I'm not saying the surface is irrelevant and not needed. That's not what I'm saying. You know, so yeah, those things are all going to be great, and they're all going to be very helpful, the renewable tech and rah. But if we don't get to the core of what's creating all the issues, no, we're not going to fix it. We're not going to truly ever fix it until you get to the core. And obviously the core is the asymptote. It is the end state. Obviously, right? You know, that's obvious. You know, you have to go through the shit to see the shinola. And, you know, we're going to have to trek through all this and then In the end, it'll all become self-apparent, and truth will have passed through all of its 3 stages. But what I'm saying is, from this point of time, not that point in the future, you know, we can see that. Because we can see that end state there now, why not try and make that now? You know, this is what indigos do. We're time jumpers. We're very good at time scaling. As you can see, I see a lot of trends. This is a great way to time scale. And, you know, we jump between worlds and times. This is what indigos do, you know. We're the glial cells. We're helping, you know, the organic portals are like the neurons of the earth, the brain cells of the earth, and I'm like a glial cell. I'm a shaman, I'm an indigo starseed, rah rah. So I'm a glial cell, and what glial cells do in the brain, in the human brain, which is what I'm making the analogy out of, is glial cells help brain cells or neurons with growth factors. So that's what I'm doing, trying to in my work at large, not this video, but that's what I'm doing too as a glial cell. So we can't keep heading down this road because it leads to destruction, so to speak. You know, it is a case of right now we're on the precipice and we have to decide between oblivion or paradise. It's going to get messy, you know. What will happen when you suddenly have to pay not just $5 for your Mount Franklin water, but what will happen when you have to pay $50 for your one little bottle of Mount Franklin? And if you don't think it's going there, you're not very up to speed in your information assimilation, are you there? Because I know a lot of water is running out around the world. Now, I have very recently seen an article which states 400 miles down there's some sort of water down there that's bigger than the ocean or some shit. I don't know. They were saying something about there's a huge mass of water down there, but that's 400 miles deep. We're not getting there anytime soon. You know, what happens when, you're all happy, you're all in your jobs, you're all very secure. I notice you're all very secure. Not like you've done it out of fear or anything. To be secure, so secure. So secure in your existence. I've made it as top manager at so-and-so co. What a small achievement. The universe looks at that, you know, with a snicker, like thinking, what? You call that an achievement? Any body could do that if they put their mind to it, so to speak, or information assimilated even. You know, enough what do I have to do to become the manager of that company, you know? How hard is that? Put on the act and etc., you know? Learn the stuff. Any body is capable of information assimilation and getting to such positions. Now, some things that need to change are, you know, our system right now in this system is, ever heard the saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know? Well, reverse that saying, because in this new time now, post-eschaton, it's exactly reversed. Now, the energy has got to pick up, you understand? It's not just a bang reversal, it's a over time reversal. So the energy has to pour into it. 2012 was also a large energy change. Energy was sucked from places and drawn into other places. For instance, in general, I suspect, in a major way, the energy was sort of sucked out of the reactive existence and atrophy, ephemeral existence of being an organic portal, and the energy was thrust more into becoming a souled human. And especially around the magnacy of the eschaton, and that's why we had suddenly we had millions of light workers everywhere. Fairies everywhere. So, yeah, we can't continue down this track. There's many problems. I mean, I'm not going to go into them now, but we can see that, you know, I can talk on this forever, and I really think I should stop this video now. It's probably boring some people by now, and we were just meant to sort of really just try and get into the ontology of the nature of being. We've gone way past that. Yeah. I don't know. Final note on that organic portals thing that I was talking about. I don't know. I don't want to put anyone down as much as I want to help them. I'll say that again. I do not want to put people down as much as I do enjoy it a bit now and then, but I don't want to put people down as much as I do want to help them. So if I'm to help you, which I can do, that's what I'm here for. That's my ability to help just via words. Not many people can do that, you know. So if I'm to help you out of that and not to scold you, if you suspect you're an organic portal, you're probably not, to begin with. You know, an organic portal probably won't even consider that they might even be one. That's the way it is. Do you get it? They're unconscious creation. Indigo is a collective conscious creation, on the other hand. We're like, an organic portal is like the other end of the spectrum to an indigo. So that's haven't I made the moniker of indigo a little less ambiguous for you now? I've helped you already. So anyway, if I'm to help you with the whole organic portal thing is, well, where's your energy going? That's my main thing that I'll say on this every time. Where's your energy going? Just in a world sense, is it going to your captors? Or is it going to people like me trying to free you? You know, that's one way you can think of where's my energy going. But in a more personal way, I am going to have to end this because I'm getting a sore throat now. But in a more personal way, if I'm to help you, you know, I'm thinking of the energy thrust idea. Where are you putting your energy? But think along the lines of the Magnus Opus. Did you really come to live your one life to really not contribute anything? You're not your body. So when you've had a kid, your body has had a kid. You're not your body. If you think you're your body, you're an organic portal. If you even have a little bit of a, hey, maybe I'm not my body, then you're most likely, I won't say most likely, but you're probably not an organic portal. So you're understanding now, you know, because this is how the understanding unraveled for me. So I'm guessing you're starting to understand it too. The whole organic portal theme. So if I'm to tell you one thing, it's where is your energy going, and this is to help you. Is it going, you know, into your Magnus Opus? Are you being expressed, or is your body being expressed in this life? Benjamin Kallenberg from www.consciousazine.com. Much love, and kisses too. Good night. Let's hope this saves when I press stop.